Every parent has to deal with going through the process of helping their teen pick out the right high school. The process can sometimes be confusing and overwhelming, but our buddies at Breakthrough New York, a nonprofit organization, helps both students and parents with the process. Here to share some high school admission tips, please welcome Breakthrough New York's Senior Site Coordinator, Yasmin. Castro, nice to have you with us.
Nice to be here. Hi.
Let's talk in general, before we get into specifics, in general about what the high school admission or selection process is like.
So in New York City, it's one of the most complicated high school admissions and selective processes in all the country. We have many different options. There are about 435 public high schools in New York City, along with independent schools and also boarding schools and many different options and Catholic schools. Charters all over the city. So there are so many choices for our students. And each of these sort of sections has a different way of getting in. Some of the processes including things that people know, like the SHSAT, so the Specialized High School exam. And then there's also applications for the public schools, there's applications for boarding schools, there's applications for independent schools, there's exams that you take to get into Catholic schools.
I'm confused already.
Yeah, so it's daunting in general, and it is a process that is different for each sector that you're looking into.
I'm guessing, and I think it's a somewhat educated guess, that the institution of the New Century schools, where they took a big high school like Evander and they split it up into 4 schools, or really all of the other big schools that were split up in that way, has contributed to this confusion. If you are a parent of a youngster who says, well, you know, I'm very interested in technology, or I'm very interested in social services. Can you find a school that feeds that, and are the school's themes consistent with what they were originally set out to do?
There are many schools that have themes and that have sort of focus on a specific sort of a specific topic for the students. So, for example, schools like Ness plus M, which their whole focus
what
is on Ness plus M.
Ness plus M.
Their entire
Gone are the days when we could just say Clinton or Roosevelt.
Yes, their entire focus is sort of on technical learning, on STEM, etc. Those schools exist, but many of those schools, again, are competitive, right? So that means that there's going to be an entrance exam, or there's going to be some sort of different level into getting accepted to that school beyond just saying, this school I want to go to, I live in this zone, I'm going to go there specifically.
Can those kinds of admissions requirements be used as inspiration for middle school students to say, you know, if you're interested in this, here's a little more incentive for you to go to school and pay attention and kind of do a little better? Or is it a middle school student so hard to reach that that never becomes a factor?
Well,
I'm hopeful is what I guess
that's partially what we do at Breakthrough. So with our program, what we do is we support middle school students, and we start, our entrance point is in the 6th grade, but they start immediately right before the summer of their 7th grade. And once they come into our program, we start to instill that information about high school. We talk to them about how they need to keep their grades up, how they need to sort of look into schools. We support parents who don't necessarily know the system, and create sort of a center and an area where they can really understand this process, and then we support them throughout that, because it is very important for your middle schooler to have an idea of what they're looking at very early on. They shouldn't just be looking in the 8th grade because it is so complicated. So we try to get to them, and our students are very open and receptive to that, because I think there is the knowledge in New York City about how complicated the system can be.
435 high schools. I guess I recall from many years ago when I was younger that there probably was a book, or nowadays I guess you could find online. Is there a way that you could sift through all this in a cohesive way, so you could say, well, I like this, I like this, I like this. Let's make these, let's say, my 5 or 7 know, top choices?
One of the things that we do is we create a list. There is a public school directory that is available to all students, and you can find that online. And there's also still that physical book that is given to students so that they can look at that. But one of the things that we say with our tips for being able to apply to high school is that if you are going to look into the schools, researching 435 schools is impossible.
It's pretty tough.
So we say to go in with an idea of a topic that you're interested in. So I'm interested in sciences, or I'm interested in STEM, or I really want my schools to have advanced placement courses and find a school and sort of go from there rather than necessarily just diving into the book immediately.
Many students, even when they get through high school and when they enter college, don't really know what they want to do. And certainly if you're going to trickle that down, there's no way many middle school students can say, oh, I'm interested in one thing over another. What does a quote-unquote general student do in that circumstance when they say, well, I don't really know what career, I don't, middle school students, they don't know.
I would say the thing that is helpful is one, to sort of call on your peers. That's part of, again, another thing that our program allows is that you have peers within the program. Because our program goes through college, our students all have this sort of connection to students who are in high school, students who are in college, and so they can do that. So look at your peers and look at the schools that they're at. There are also open houses all throughout New York City. They start in the spring, and they also go throughout this sort of fall semester, which allows students to go and see and feel those schools so they can have a better idea of what they want to look for. Because I think the best idea for students is that fit, and so going to those open houses, going to those fairs is going to help to siphon down.
Aside from having the database and having the information and having the processes, what does Breakthrough New York do? Like, how do you implement this program? Do you, just drop in on a middle school and say, hi, we're here? Do you have regular programs? Do you run seminars? How does it work so that you can actually effectively inspire students to do and parents to do the right thing?
Our middle school programming is very comprehensive. So we have after-school programming at each one of our sites. We have sites in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. And that after-school programming, when we start in September. Our focus is solely on our 8th graders so that they can do application processing, and we can help them with sort of list building and being able to get started. And then we bring in tutors that help them with their schoolwork. Those tutors are all high-achieving high school students who help them with all their schoolwork. And then we have other sort of programming that allows that. Our summer programming is also very intensive, and we always have high school application sort of classes within that summer programming to help them get started. So we look at it as a very strategic move so that we can work with our kids in different levels to get them through that process, because we do have to provide a lot of services to them because we know how daunting it can be.
And I can tell you, Breakthrough New York is doing a great job. I'm going to just, from the interviews we've done on TV and from what I've heard from parents, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So what's the advice for a middle school parent, maybe even a middle school student who's watching us right now? What are you telling them about doing this process right so you get the right conclusion?
I think the first thing I would tell to any parent is to breathe, because
you're right. I got to take a deep breath.
It can feel a little tension filled.
It's daunting,
yeah, and it's daunting.
And you want to do the right thing.
And you want to do the best for your student. I would say to breathe and just take a moment. I would say to also make sure that you're paying attention to your students' demeanor and allowing them to breathe, because this can be very daunting. And then to look for support in any program, in any way that you can. Whether the support is within your schools, all schools have counselors, and counselors are working very hard, but they're working to be able to support you as much as possible.
That's good. Don't go it alone. Right?
Don't go it alone, and also just making sure that you're sort of allowing your student to have options. Look at all the different choices.
And the one thing you didn't outwardly say, but I'm going to say, look for Breakthrough New York. How do they find you if, let's say, the after-school programs that you're talking about are not necessarily available in every single school? How do they find Breakthrough New York? Can they access your programs? Can they talk to you or others and find out what to do?
Our program is open to students all over New York City. Our program has an entrance point. Your student needs to be a 6th grader, and they need to be high achieving and also low income. So we have certain levels of that. Our application opens in November, and so I would go to our website, btny.org, and start looking at that in early November to be able to see if your student can apply. And then once your student applies, they go through an application process with us, and hopefully we get them into our new class, and they'll be with us for the 7th grade.
I'll tell you, one of the things that will help parents breathe if they sit down and listen to you, because the process is daunting, it's very difficult, but it is very comforting to know that there are excellent organizations like Breakthrough New York that will be able to help students navigate this difficult but very important time. How do they get to you? There's a website.
So btny.org is our website, and that's the best bet.
All right, there you go. Yasmin, Castro, thank you so much. Say hello to all my buddies over there at Breakthrough New York, and we hope you'll come back and visit us sometime.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We are going to take a break, and you're going to take a break, but then we'll come right back.